It's been a headline-making kind of week for Arrowhead and Helldivers 2. Even before this week, the excitement created by the Escalation of Freedom trailer was immense. And then Tuesday arrived, and along with that new content was a series of mind-blowing fire effect nerfs just days before a new warbond was set to arrive, which was created around fire effects and flame weapons, leaving the community dazed and confused. Welcome to the channel. This is LtBuzzLitebeer and Freedom's Flame. Helldivers' new premium warbond has arrived, and thanks to Tuesday's fire changes, Arrowhead effectively pre-nerfed much of the new fire-centric offerings before they ever went live. We also see a new but old, more like a familiar call from the development team asking for player feedback and acknowledging they're overstepping the line in terms of nerfing certain aspects of the game. All of this we're going to touch on in just a moment. In case you haven't done so already, take just a moment to hit subscribe. It's free and aids greatly in getting this video spread to the far corners of YouTube. And while you're at it, take a few seconds more to ring that notifications bell. And here we go with more from Helldivers. So, very quick recap of some of the new stuff here. Expect to officially receive your free TR40 Gold Eagle armor when you log in today. And to jog your memory, this is a medium set of armor with extra padding as the passive for an even higher armor value. Always exciting when a new warbond drops is the new Superstore offerings, starting off with the tandem sets that are paired with Freedom's Flame. Now the first up is the I-44 Salamander heavy body armor with Inflammable, the new passive that provides 75% damage resistance to fire. There's also the matching Salamander helmet, the I-92 Firefighter helmet, which does look strong by the way, and the I-92 Firefighter medium body armor, again with Inflammable as the passive. And I know it's been a while, so just remember that the Superstore operates off of Super Creds, which can be purchased with real-world money, or you can farm for them in-game and not spend a single dime on the new stuff. Same idea for the warbond as well. One of the new changes that launched in conjunction with the Escalation of Freedom DLC was this new style UI overhaul, which can be seen here when interacting with the Galactic map. Now, kind of lost in all the uproar with Escalation and the changes it ushered in is the current and ongoing major order to simultaneously kill 500 million bugs on Socorro 3 while also liberating Esker and Boar Rock, which divers cannot even reach right now until they actually liberate Esker. Now with 2 days remaining, the kill count on Socorro 3 is nearly complete, and diver forces have achieved a roughly 10% push so far on Esker. Will there be enough players returning for the new content to help bolster this Galactic War effort? That's an interesting question, as SteamDB shows roughly 44,000 divers currently on Steam, which is twice the normal player counts we've seen over the last few months. Now, I've been through so many of these major orders in the past, and as I look at the time versus the progress ratio here, even with it being conducted in bug territory, my best guess places this one in the possible category for completion. Since you want as many medals as you can scrounge right now, today's daily or personal order is to extract with 5 rare samples. That's it. And once done, you've picked up another 15 medals, which you can burn on the warbond. No pun intended there, but some hidden meaning with that reference. Arrowhead's launch week is now concluded with Freedom's Flame. We get new weapons, we get new armor, and of course the normal assortment of odds and ends for divers to purchase. But leading into today was Tuesday's developer news that they had gone in and modified the flame damage effects to be more realistic against armored enemies. Based on past attempts, the studio has made to modify what they deem as not working as intended. The community knew to brace for the worst, and those fears are now confirmed. The flamethrower went from a viable and powerful stratagem to use versus the Terminids to now a mid-pack to actually more near the bottom stratagem selection. I've now had time to run through a few hell dives with the flamethrower, and what used to be a high-risk, high-reward stratagem weapon has now turned to all risk, no reward. Charger spawn bombs become an absolute slog, as the changes now make it so enemies are not damaged through their armor. There's also a vertical recoil pattern that has been placed on the flamethrower, making it harder to control, while also reducing it to doing a mediocre job of handling low to mid-level chaff. Of course, in one of the more puzzling decisions in Helldivers history, Arrowhead decided to absolutely gut fire damage versus certain enemy types, and unfortunately, this carries through to the warbond weapons themselves. Now, I had planned on recording and uploading a comprehensive breakdown of this warbond and of course those weapons, but once I began using them in mission, I opted out of that plan. In place of that upload, here's a more streamlined version, starting off with the SG451 Cookout Shotgun, and it's decent, and the best weapon included with Freedom's Flame. This doesn't mean it's in direct competition with the Incendiary Breaker, even with the Breaker and its now scaled back available magazine counts. The Flam 66 Torture lightweight primary flamethrower does have potential, and I do like the fact that the spool up time between pulling the trigger and the actual flame stream starting to fire from the weapon is quite short, but it suffers from both the reduction of fire damage effects and a weaker base damage rating. Medium armor penetration and longer canister life for this weapon are both strengths, but again, fire took such a devastating hit with escalation, and the Torture is directly affected. The Crisper, that sidearm, is in much the same predicament. For what it is, it could excel, but the base damage and nerfs to fire effects both hold it back. As it is, even with the 33% reduction in ammo for the Incendiary Breaker, I am predicting that many players will stick with the Breaker over both of these new primaries. Both the I-09 Heatseeker and the I-102 Draconaut armor are well designed, and the new passive of Inflammability does somewhat protect divers from fire damage, though it feels a bit inconsistent. Fire ticks seem to not only burn down a diver slower, but at a less brutal rate. But in my testing, there were times I was at full health, I caught a bug on fire and was immediately caught on fire as it ran by me, turning me into a crispy puddle of mush in the blink of an eye. The dark horse or sleeper in this warbond is that Firebomb Hellpod booster, which when equipped turns all Hellpods that hit the planet into exploding projectiles, complete with a blast radius and a small fire AoE. This includes sentries, it includes stratagem weapons, even resupplies. Any and all Hellpods that hit the planet's surface will trigger this explosion, damaging divers and enemies alike. Now, through our testing, we were seeing more consistent results when attempting to be the bullet and aim directly at armored enemies like Chargers and Bile Titans and of course the new Impaler. It won't take the place of a well-aimed orbital or Seaf launcher mini nuke, but it does a bit more damage than one might think. I foresee a spike in diver rage quits when someone actually equips this booster and goes rogue versus their squad mates. On a quick side note, I've now been through a handful of the new Acid Rainstorm debuff mechanics, and they don't honestly seem to do much, at least not in terms of how they reduce enemy toughness. If Arrowhead could manage to release some percentage numbers associated with this new effect, such as divers and enemies' toughness is reduced by X percentage and all outgoing damage is amplified by X percentage, that would be really helpful. But the way it sits, it's tough to gauge how much it helps and hurts. So overall, Freedom's Flame has some unique designs to the cosmetics and the potential to be a pretty decent warbond, but with the earlier changes to fire effects, essentially pre-nerfing their damage output, it's turned what could be a good warbond into one that I would not spend real money on to purchase. However, if you've saved up enough super creds from in-game farming, that's your call. Sticking with the topic of Arrowhead warbonds, previous attempts to balance the game, see the most recent fire damage changes, and of course, the release of Escalation of Freedom, the community response has been less than enthusiastic. Now, a couple of hours ago, IGN led with this headline: Fire damage nerfs push Helldivers 2 community to open rebellion again. And then a further point below says boiling point. Helldivers 2 developer Arrowhead Game Studios is facing fresh backlash from the community after nerfing fire damage weapons days before releasing its pyromaniac-themed premium warbond, Freedom's Flame. The balance changes introduced by this week's Escalation of Freedom update include a number of tweaks to the game's fire damage system designed to make flame-spewing weapons behave more realistically. A bit further into this article, IGN writes, Arrowhead has acknowledged the backlash, with community manager Baskinator assuring players on Discord that developers have, quote, heard your feedback related to fire damage, and the studio was now, quote, having a lot of internal discussions about the best course of action. This isn't the first time Arrowhead has faced the inferno of community rebellion. Helldivers 2 director Johan Pilstedt said in May that the studio has been overzealous with the frequency of its nerf-laden updates, noting, quote, it feels like every time someone finds something fun, the fun is removed. By the way, that quote was coming from the, at that time, CEO of Arrowhead Games. Now, since I, like many of you, have been with Helldivers for so long now, this feels all too familiar. There is a pattern here. Players find X weapon to use that makes them feel powerful and at least on par with their targets. Arrowhead then swoops in and destroys that outlier weapon with a severe and heavy hand. The player outrage boils over, Discord is set on fire, Twitter is set on fire, Reddit is what Reddit is, and the devs then release a statement acknowledging that they were too severe with the power reductions, promising to do better in the future, and there are requests for player feedback. Until we see any systemic change within this loop of nerf, acknowledge, promise, feedback, I'm going to continue to approach Arrowhead developer outreach as nothing more than a tool to try to ice the community. As I said in yesterday's video, don't pay attention to what Arrowhead says, pay attention to what they do. Now, just this morning, the official Helldivers Discord posted a message outlining a new feedback submission process. And by the way, I'll include a link to this site in the video description in case you are not a part of the official Helldiver Discord community. But that abusive loop is again on full display here, just days after another controversial player power reduction is pushed through, even after the promises to stop nerfing and even after the promises to take player feedback into account. And yes, to be clear, Arrowhead made Helldivers, and it's totally within their rights to tune, balance, and further develop the game how they see fit. But there is clearly something that's broken within their internal discussion process. When you have Johan acknowledging past nerfs as being too severe, even zapping the fun out of the game, and then just days before a Pyromaniac's Wet Dream Warbond releases, they drastically change and reduce fire damage, it just doesn't line up. Recent Steam reviews show what some players think of the changes, as just this week, we've seen thousands of negative reviews being left on the Helldivers Steam page. Much can be assumed from this recent review bomb, and I think it would be safe to assume those negative reviews are aimed squarely at the incendiary breaker ammo reduction and the absolute gutting of fire damage, especially how it relates to the flamethrower. And until, or if, Arrowhead shows they have made a complete 180 and begin taking the players' feedback, which they always seem to ask for hot on the heels of a controversial balancing patch, into account, we will continue to see these negative reviews and pushback from the community. And remember, this is a Helldiver player community that created history when they took on that mandatory Sony PSN log-on requirement with an absolutely legendary amount of unity and resolve, eventually winning the day and getting Sony to relent, although that battle is far from over. In terms of the live game, there is the potential for more of these questionable moments to be coming from the studio, with hints already dropping of changes incoming to the Commando and to the Laser Guard Dog Rover. Now, players love the Commando, the versatility of the weapon, and how it can blow up automaton fabricators. Arrowhead has identified that as a bug, and that the weapon is not working as they intended it to. Tuesday's patch notes mysteriously have added the laser guard dog rover now to the known issues board, indicating that its ability to shoot without overheating is also a bug. Where does Arrowhead go with this self-inflicted fire damage wound? How will they handle the commando? How will they handle the guard dog rover? All excellent questions for chat, by the way, and I encourage you to drop me a comment. But like many of you dedicated divers, I'm ready and willing to provide feedback and assistance, but I need to know that my time and effort is actually being received and considered. And right now, it just doesn't feel that way. Instead, I see an entrenched developer mentality of pulling down those outlier weapons, acknowledging player concerns along with promises to do better in the future, requesting player feedback, and then it just happens all over again the very next time they release a major update. And I saw this firsthand with Outriders. Awesome launch, large player counts despite all those massive technical nightmares, and then the heavy-handed, spreadsheet-driven nerfs came crashing down update after update. Too much power over here, nerf. Too much ability over there, nerf. And the game just fell off a cliff, which is a damn shame because I loved it and what it initially tried to become. And now over to your top 3 comments from my last Helldivers video, starting off with numeral uno, coming to us from Geyser Guy 2. Arrowhead. Players need to be more reliant on stratagems, not primary weapons. Players. Flamethrower is a stratagem. It even has a ship module to increase its damage. Why did you nerf it? Arrowhead. Someone somewhere may have said that the game was too easy. We have no idea who, but rumors have feelings too, and those rumors wanted to buy our fire warbond, but only if fire becomes useless. Players. Are you stupid? And by the way, this seems to be a theme for today's top 3 anecdotes. More to come. All right, on to number 2, and this is from Albert Larson 9141. And they say, yet the Hulks can still burn you through walls. Yes, Albert, they can. Very much so. And to be honest, I was stunned at this number 3 comment. It's an absolute short story from Eisenhammertech 5248, and just sit back and listen to this one. A story that has nothing to do with Helldivers 2. Little Timmy is bored in his room when Papa comes home with a big box of new toys. Timmy opens the box and finds all sorts of toys to choose from. There's a PlayStation 5, an Xbox 360, a Game Boy Color, and a set of playing cards. Timmy tries out all of his new toys, but after he gets familiar with them all, he mostly just uses the PlayStation 5. It has the newest games that he wants to play and overall gives him the best experience. So he plays it a lot and he has a lot of fun. But then Papa comes back into his room with a very upset look on his face. Timmy, he shouts, I got you all these toys, but you're only using this fancy PlayStation. Why? Before Timmy can speak, Papa smashes the PlayStation with a baseball bat. Timmy begins to cry, but Papa places a hand on Timmy's shoulder. Listen, Timmy. Papa knows what is best for you. Now that the PlayStation is gone, you can play with all the other toys I got you. You should be grateful. After Papa leaves, Timmy goes back to playing. After trying out his toys once again, he settles into playing the Xbox 360. It doesn't work nearly as well as the PlayStation 5 did, and all of the games on it are kind of old, but it's still pretty fun. But just when Timmy is really starting to appreciate his Xbox, Papa storms into the room once again. Timmy, what did I tell you about using your toys? Timmy's shocked. He tries to speak, but Papa places his finger on Timmy's lips. Listen, Timmy, Papa knows better. This is for your own good. Papa then pours a glass of water into the Xbox, destroying it. Timmy is left with just his Game Boy Color and playing cards. It doesn't take him long to figure out that the Game Boy will simply bring him more joy, but not long after, Papa once again angrily snatches the Game Boy away from Timmy, telling him that it's not for the sake of your own fun. Timmy takes a long, hard look at his playing cards, but this time, when Papa comes in to tear the cards to shreds, Timmy isn't there. This time, Timmy went outside to play. Very interesting set of comments for today, but If you want a chance to see your name and comment in my next Helldivers video, you first off need to leave me a comment. Also, some comments may have more upvotes than these 3 you heard today, but what you can't see are the downvotes. So that makes these 3 the top 3 for today. Remember to hit subscribe and ring that notifications bell to receive my latest upload alerts. All my socials, including links to all today's sources, can be found in the video description. We are nearly to 237,000 subscribers, and I wanted to again thank you incredible ladies and gents from across the globe who've taken the plunge, have hit subscribe, and tuned in to support me and my channel. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.